Why can't you hear me? What is happening? What is happening? What? Da, 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 da. This is... Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Cause like I can't see that I'm like talking. This is weird. It's like I can't see that I'm talking down here. Can you still hear me? Oh dear. You can hear me. That's good, cause like I am. That was weird. I have this little thingamajig, and like it doesn't go off. I can't. Wait. Huh? Why is it on that? So it's on the other now. This is weird. Ugh. But yeah. Welcome. I've literally got no energy right now. Not because it's 9 p.m, but like I really don't know why. I ate breakfast, which is also kind of my lunch-ish thing, because like I woke up at noon. We're not gonna talk about that. And then I ate dinner as well, and I've been full all day, and I even went outside with my dog on a walk. So yeah. Yeah, you can totally do that. You work fast. Also, hi! Welcome! Is the music... Yeah, okay, it's still going. Yeah, I got not a lot of energy right now, sadly. But what can you do? And I did remember to take my meds this morning, so that's good. And I'm getting high off of smelling my peppermint plants. And the other way for me to get high is thinking about cuddling bones. Yeah, you can totally do that. Don't worry. The internet sucks here as well. My internet is always also crap. So, especially because we're so many using it at once. Where did I put? There. I hope you got your water. I can put that right behind Albert. There. There we go. I'm really sad that I couldn't get to play Minecraft yesterday on stream, but as soon as I started Minecraft, Twitch Studio went haywire with so many frame drops and slow frames, and it just kept stopping all the time. So I'm going to see if I can do something about that, because I had planned to be streaming Minecraft every Saturday and Sunday, but I might not be able to anyway. But I'm still having a story time stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. CET. Yeah. But yeah, it is book 3 of Wings of Fire we're starting today. It's called The Hidden Kingdom. And the dragon we see here is the Rainwing Glory, and it is her perspective we are seeing this book from. Though it's still obviously third person, it's still from her perspective. I still keep looking over on my computer because I'm used to using the face cam on my computer, but now I have my face cam sitting on my desk. Yeah. Got the chill music going on, and we got a professional setup-ish thing, as my said yesterday. And got some order behind Albert for between each chapter. And I have not read this yet. I have not read this book yet. I read the first 2 prior to streaming reading them. But this one we are going to be experiencing together, as well as all the others to come. There are 14 in the series so far. And there's a 15th book in the making. I don't know when that'll come out. It's the 14th came out this December. But yeah. I'm just vibing to this music. I hope it's not too loud, actually. You just say if it's too loud, the music. And we got a little map of Pyria here. You can't really see it all that well. But it just shows where the different dragon kingdoms are, and the palaces, and specific landmarks. There's a Scorpion Den, there are Diamond Spray Delta, and Diamond Spray River. And we got a few scavenger dens, and we got the Jade Mountain and Under the Mountain where the first book is. And then we got like where the three I need there the three Sandwing queens, or could be queens, are located, like their strongholds and stuff. At least I think only Burn's stronghold is on the map actually. Oh well. And then there's like a guide, a Nightwing guide to the Dragons of Pyria, where they like have the different dragons and like what they look like, their abilities, their queen, and the lances in the war. And then a little sketch of them. Like the top one is a Mudwing, the bottom one is a Sandwing. And the first one, and the top one here is a Skywing, and the bottom one is a Seawing. You can't really see it all that well. I'm sorry. And here the top one is a Rainwing, and the lowest one, and the bottom one is an Icewing. We haven't interacted much with Icewings so far, actually. And then the last one is the Nightwings, which are kind of assholes, really. Especially Morosia. I don't like him. But yeah, should we refresh the prophecy? It's in the start of every book, like the descriptions and everything. Should I refresh that to you guys? Or maybe not. Yeah, we'll cut over that. Because we like got a prologue as well to read. As well as 5 chapters for today, so oh right, you haven't heard it, have you? The prophecy. Yeah, we can take that. It's not very long. Yeah? The Dragonet Prophecy. This is a prophecy that has been made by a Nightwing, actually. The Nightwing called Morosia, which I hate. I hate him. I love to hate him. When the war has lasted 20 years, the Dragonets will come. When the land is soaked in blood and tears, the Dragonets will come. Find the Seawing egg of deepest blue. Wings of night shall come to you. The largest egg in mountain high will give you the wings of sky. For wings of earth search through the mud, for an egg the color of dragon blood. And hidden alone from the rival queens, the Sandwing egg awaits unseen. Of 3 queens who blister and blaze and burn, 2 shall die and 1 shall learn. If she bows to a fate that is stronger and higher, she will have the power of wings of fire. 5 eggs to hatch on the brightest night. 5 dragons born to end the fight. Darkness will rise to bring the light. The Dragonets are coming. And that was the Dragonet Prophecy. We shall move on to Le Prologue. The 5 Dragonets were fighting again. Bright scales in green and red and gold caught the rising sun as the young dragons darted between the rocks, claws and teeth flashing. 5 forked tongues hissed with fury. Beyond them, below the cliffs, the sea crashed against the sand with a muffled rushing sound, as if it didn't want to compete with the shouts of the dragons. It was embarrassing, was what it was. Nautilus glanced up uneasily at the massive black dragon beside him. The dragonets were so busy yelling at one another that they hadn't even noticed him yet. Nautilus wished he could read Marossia's mind, the way Marossia was undoubtedly reading his. He also wished there were more talents of peace around, but when word spread that the Nightwing was coming, most of them suddenly found urgent missions elsewhere. The peace movement's hideout in the seaside cliffs was virtually deserted this morning. Occasionally, a dragon snout would emerge from one of the caves, spot Marossia, and instantly vanish again. The 5 dragonets were the only ones on top of the cliffs, although there were several other young dragons living with the talents of peace. They'd all been whisked out of sight. I just realized I forgot to turn on my light. I'll be right back. Sorry. Up we go with this. And then we just need to put this out in. Ow. There. Light. Let there be light. I'm back. And under the blanket again. Because my legs are sore. Oh, that helps so much actually. I'm able to see better. There. Yeah, I'm no professional, as you can see. You can obviously tell. Alright, let's continue. But apparently no one had seen fit to warn the objects of Marossia's scrutiny that he was coming, or that they were going to be inspected. Well, Marossia said, they are energetic. They were just a backup plan, Nautilus said defensively. Nobody thought we'd need them, especially not all of them. We thought maybe 1 or 2 of them if something went wrong with the originals. We haven't spent a lot of time training them. I can see that. Marossia's dark eyes narrowed at Viper, the Sandwing. Marossia's dark eyes narrowed as Viper, the Sandwing, fell into a crevice, and the Mudwing promptly tripped and landed on top of her. With a hiss, Viper whipped around and bit Ochre's tail, setting off a yowling whine. Excuse me, Nautilus said. He could see where this was going. He stepped forward, cuffed Viper's ears, and snatched Squid, the little green sea-wing, out of the way before the others could set his tail on fire. Stop this, Nautilus said. Nautilus hissed. You are being watched. Flame, the red skywing dragonet, snapped his mouth shut and whipped his head around, scanning the twisted rocks of the sea cliff. Marossia stepped into the light of the sunrise and looked down his snout majestically. I knew it! Crowed the little Nightwing dragonet. Fate Seeker leaped off a stone pillar, flapping her wings proudly. I knew a Nightwing was coming to see us. Didn't I tell you guys this would happen? Did you? Ochre scratched his large brown head. No, said Viper. Don't think so, piped up Squid from behind Nautilus's back. Even if you did, you also predicted an earthquake and new talents of peace, and that we'd have something besides seagulls for breakfast this week, said Flame. And since none of those have happened, you can see why we might have stopped listening. Well, I knew Fate Speaker said, what the frig is that word? Blithely? Blithely. What the frig is that kind of word? Blithely. I saw it with my powers, and I foresee that he brought us something great for breakfast. Didn't you? She beamed up at Marozia. He blinked slowly. Nautilus, a word, please. Can I come too? The black dragon... Can I come too? The black dragonette asked, bouncing closer to Marozia. I've never met another Nightwing before, although, of course, I feel a very strong psychic connection with our whole tribe. Stay here. Marozia pressed one claw into her chest and moved her back to the other dragonettes. She sat down and curled the tail around her talons with a huffing snort. Marozia stepped down the rocks, out of earshot. When he turned, he found Nautilus right behind him. But clinging to his tail was a sea-wing dragonette. Marozia gazed at Squid disapprovingly. I can't leave him alone, Nautilus said apologetically. Whenever I'm not watching, one of them bites him. Or they all do, sniffed the small green dragon. Marozia flicked his tongue in and out, considering. It's clear to me, said the enormous Nightwing after a moment, that leaving the dragonettes of the prophecy in the care of the talons of peace was a mistake. Both the real ones and the false ones. Who? Asked the dragonette. Hush, said Nautilus, covering the dragonette's snout with one talon. He saw the look on Marozia's face and added hastily. You remember, Squid. We told you about the prophecy. You know, the war that all the dragon tribes are fighting? The one you want to stop? Squid said. Because we're the good guys. We want peace. Right, said Nautilus. Basically right. So, the prophecy says that 5 dragonettes are hatching were hatched about 6 years ago. A Sea-Wing, a Sky-Wing, a Mud-Wing, a Sand-Wing, and a Night-Wing. We're going to end the war. They get to choose which sister should be the new Sand-Wing Queen. Burn, bliss, or blaze. Oh, said Squid. Hey, I hatched about 6 years ago. Really? Said Marozia. You're barely the size of a 3-year-old dragonette. I have a big personality, Squid informed him, as if he had been told this enough times that he was certain everyone knew it. And your friends are about 6 years old too, Nautilus said quickly. They're not my friends, Squid grumbled. They're all bullies, except for Fate Speaker, who is playing crazy. Marozia glanced back at Fate Speaker, the Nightwing dragonette. She was sitting on top of a twisted stone column, leaning so far toward them that she looked in imminent danger of overbalancing and toppling off. Well, Squid, Nautilus said, what if you were one of the dragonettes of in the prophecy? What would you think about that? The Sea-Wing gave Marozia a canny look. Would I get treasure? You'd get fame and power, said Marozia. If you did what you were told, that is. What about treasure? Squid insisted. Marozia gave Nautilus an incredulous look. Is this dragonette bargaining with me? I like treasure, Squid pointed out. The talons of peace are so lame because none of them have any treasure. We give up worldly things to fight for a higher cause, Nautilus said. Peace is more important than jewels or gold. Said Squid. I'd rather have gold. Would you be willing to choose which of a Sandwing Queen we told you to? Marozia asked. If so, we could perhaps talk about gold. Alright, Squid said with a gleam in his eye. But I don't want Flame to be part of it. He has to stay here. Why? What's wrong with your skywing? Marozia asked Nautilus. Nothing, Nautilus said. They're just having a fight today. And every day, Squid said, because he's mean. The skywing is non-negotiable, said Marozia. You're non-negotiable. Blah blah. Sorry. You're non-negotiable, Squid said. Squid doesn't know how to say it. Squid doesn't know that word. Squid, be polite, said Nautilus tiredly. I foresee that I am going to regret this, said Marozia, frowning down at the sea wings. But I will be taking over the training of the Prophecy Dragonettes. They have been mishandled for too long. Obviously, they need a clearer guidance. What does that mean? Nautilus asked. A sense of dread was starting to creep across his scales. He glanced at Squid. Perhaps I should have chosen a different sea wing to be the fake dragonette of the prophecy. If Marozia hurts Squid, if anything happens to him, his mother is going to kill me, Nautilus thought. It means they're coming with me, Marozia said with a flick of his tail. Where? Squid demanded. You'll find out when we get there, said Marozia. If you know what's good for you, you'll stop asking nosy questions and do what you're told. I can do that, Squid said. But good luck with Flamin' Viper, he thought for a moment. And Fate Speaker, for that matter. Wait, no, said Nautilus. He tried to fill his mind with noise so the Nightwing couldn't read his thoughts. You can't take them, except for Fate Speaker, who came from you. All their parents are talents. That's how we got their eggs in the first place. They won't want them to leave. Except Ochre, Squid offered. His mum won't care. It's a Mudwing thing. Shut up, said Marozia. He started Nautilus with black, narrow eyes. Don't think it, don't think it, don't think it, Nautilus repeated to himself. 3 moons, Marozia said with disgust. This dragonette is your son. Nautilus stared down at his claws. It had seemed like a good idea when the Talons first decided to have backup dragonettes. Squid hatched around the right time, if not exactly on the brightest night, and it meant that everyone in the movement treated the dragonettes like the precious creature Nautilus knew he was. Of course I am, said Squid. Isn't that a funny coincidence? Wow, I'm the son of the leader of the Talons of Peace and the Dragonet of Destiny. He puffed out his chest. I'm even more important than I thought I was. He strutted off toward the other dragonettes, having forgotten, as he often did, that none of them liked hearing about how important he was, and that he would almost certainly end up with a singed snout before long. Nautilus watched him go, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Why had the Talons agreed to work with Marozia? Why had they decided to get involved with the prophecy in the first place? And how had they lost the real dragonettes? That was the question that drove him crazy. Crestaldune and Webbs should have been able to keep a handle on the 5 dragonettes, especially when they were conveniently trapped in a secret cave. Instead, the 5 had escaped, then possibly killed Queen Scarlet of the Skywings, thrown the Sky Kingdom into upheaval, turned Queen Coral against her allies, wrecked the Seawing Palace, and disappeared once more into the wilds of Pyria. Worse yet, there was no one to punish. Crystal and Dune were dead, while Webbs had wriggled away from the Talons and vanished. And who knew where the dragonettes were, or when they'd turn up again with their spectacular talent for trouble and chaos. Quite a coincidence, Marozia echoed Squid's remark, sounding rather unimpressed. Well, said Nautilus, I thought, why not? Of course, none of these 5 drag actually hatched on the brightest night, or else they'd be the real dragonettes of the prophecy, wouldn't they? But they're about the right age, and nobody has to know the rest. Except anyone who was at their hatching, Marozia mused. It would be tidier if we could kill any witnesses. Nautilus blanked. Do the parents count as witnesses? He wondered before he could squelch the thought. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Marozia said briskly, since we can't be sure yet which of these we'll use and which we'll discard. He frowned at Fate Speaker, who was eagerly interrogating Squid. Nautilus felt properly faint now. Discard? He echoed. Marozia snorted. Very well. I'll try to bring yours back in one piece. He wrinkled his snout, looking as close to amused as Nautilus had ever seen him. But isn't peace the most important thing, Seawing? Don't tell me you tell your talents all the time that... Don't you tell your talents all the time that any sacrifice must be made to end this war? Yes, but the alternate dragonets were your idea in the first place. A good idea, as it turns out, since the real ones have proven to be so unsatisfactory. Marozia hissed softly. So we get rid of the most dangerous ones. I trained their replacement myself. He smiled in a way that made Nautilus feel queasy right down to his claws. And then we make sure the prophecy is fulfilled the way it was supposed to be. End of the prologue. And then we go on to part 1 of the book. There are 3 parts in each book. And this first part is called Rainforest Monsters. Ew. Oh. Gotta get the hydration in. Go. So, Chapter 1. It had been raining for 5 days. Glory officially hated it. She also was not enjoying the comments from the other dragonets about how, as a rainwing, she should love this weather. She most certainly did not love this weather. In the caves under the mountain, the dragonets had never ever been rained on. This downpour felt unnatural and unstoppable and horribly, unpleasantly wet. I don't care if a real rainwing is supposed to like this, she thought as droplets rolled off her snout, seeped through her scales, and soaked her wings until they dragged heavily behind her. If they do, there's something wrong with them. No sensible dragon should enjoy weather that makes it so hard to fly. 3 moons. Please let them be sensible dragons. Let them be nothing like the stories. Everyone said rainwings were useless and lazy, but the tribe lived off by themselves in the rainforest where no one even ever saw them. So everything might be wrong. So everyone might be wrong.
Beep up the bee. That's off of the. Yes. I can't got Kelly. Princess Pippi.
What just happened?
It just.
What? I don't know what just happened. Sorry. That was my older sister coming into my room to get into her room, which is on the other side of this. What? Altså, jeg har ingen penge lige nu. Men jo, jeg vil gerne have sådan en med. Ja. that happened. Sorry. We'll continue now. So everyone might be wrong. Glory was really hoping they were wrong. She shook her whole body and glared at the fog-shrouded sky. What she wanted was more sun. She'd missed the sun her whole life and hadn't known it until it hit her scales the day she left the caves. More long sunny days would be fine by her. Instead there was this. Rain, mud, more mud. Plus one moaning, groaning, dripping slowpoke of a wounded sea-wing. Can we stop? Webbs gasped. I need to rest. He floundered through the mud He floundered through the mud to a slightly drier spot under a tree. Glory narrowed her eyes at him as the blue-green dragon flopped to the ground. The other dragonettes stopped, too, exchanging glances. They were walking today instead of flying because Webbs said it was easier on his injury, and yet he still asked to stop nearly every 10 steps. Glory was starting to suspect he didn't really want them to get to the rainforest. But why? She wondered. Is he hiding something? Does it have to do with my parents? As the guardian who had stolen her from the Rainwing tribe in the first place, Webbs should have been a helpful fount of knowledge about where she came from. Instead, he got all mumbly and forgetful whenever they asked about the rainforest dragons. Clay paced over to Webbs and peered down at his wound. They'd wrapped it with seaweed soaked in ocean water for as long as they could, but now they were too far inland to get any more. The poisoned scratch near Webb's tail had become an ugly gash surrounded by blackened scales, and the black seemed to spread a bit more each day. None of them had any idea what to do to combat sandwing poison. Remember, I'm going to be stuttering a lot and backtracking because I haven't read this book yet either. So, not to mention, we have no idea why Blissa wanted Webb's death so badly. I mean, I think she's awful, but she doesn't even know him. Glory glanced at Starflight, the Black Nightwing, who was the smartest dragonette she knew, and probably still would be even if she knew more than 4 dragonettes. She wondered if he had any theories about Blister and Webbs. Clay swept his tail through the mud, looking worried. I hope the Rainwings can help him, he said. This isn't exactly like their venom, but maybe they'll have more ideas what we can do than we do. Glory shook out her wings and looked away. She didn't care. The other dragonettes felt some kind of misguided loyalty to their older guardian, as if it was their responsibility to save him. She was the only one who seemed to remember how he'd been willing to stand by and let someone kill her. Stealing her ad had been his idea too. The prophecy called for a Skywing, but when the Talons lost their Skywing egg before it hatched, Webbs had decided to replace it with a Rainwing. It was his fault Glory had been forced to grow up under the mountain, far away from her home and family, learning about a prophecy that didn't even have a place for her in it. It was easy for the others. There was no question about their destiny. But Glory, if she was meant to save the world, then why hadn't the prophecy called for a Rainwing? And if she wasn't necessary for this big grand destiny, then what was the point of her life at all? Maybe it was all one big mistake, but when she thought like that, she ended up having violent dreams about ripping Webbs apart. So, better not to think about it. Destiny would have to sort itself out. Right now, she was going home. The branch above Glory suddenly dipped and dumped a lake's worth of water onto her head. She leaped back with a hiss and glared up into the tree. Shh! Tsunami said from above. She dropped down to the ground and peered around at the gloomy swamp. There's a pair of Muttwings headed this way, but They'll never see us under this weather. Us in this weather. Rolls of thick grey fog hung over the mud. Breathing? This is going to be like over 2 hours long, I'm sure. This stream. How the frick do you say this word? Breathing? I don't know. Sorry. Rolls of thick grey fog hung over the mud, wreathing the stunted trees like smoke around the dragon's horns. It was hard to tell what time of day it was. The sky was grey in every direction, and the rain drizzled down unrelentingly. Glory agreed with Tsunami. A dragon could barely see her own wingtips in this, let alone another dragon. We should still hide, Starflight said anxiously. We're only a day's flight from Queen Another... This is a name, by the way. How do you want us to say this name, Sutherland? Maureen? I'm just gonna say Maureen. We're only a day's flight from Queen Maureen's palace right now. If we get caught... More prison, Clay said with a sigh. Every queen they'd met so far seemed determined to keep the dragonets trapped under their claws. They'd escaped Queen Scarlet's prison in the Sky Kingdom only because of Glory's venom, a secret venom even she hadn't known about until she needed it. She touched her forked tongue to her fangs and glanced to the sky. They still had no idea if Queen Scarlet had survived Glory's attack. Given their luck, Glory was pretty sure Scarlet was alive and planning some horrible revenge. After that escape, they'd gone looking for safety with Tsunami's mother, Queen Coral of the Sea Wings. Of course, Coral had decided to lock them up as well. Glory hadn't been surprised. Not even family could be trusted when it came to the prophecy. Everyone had their own plans for how this war should end. So, if Queen Maureen of the Mud Wings found them in her territory, she probably wasn't going to give them tea and send them on their way. The Mudwing Queen held court beside a large lake on the southern edge of the Mud Kingdom. Glory remembered the map of Hyria, and a shiver of realization ran down her spine. If Starflight was right, and they were only a day's flight from there, then they must be only a day's flight from the rainforest as well. From the rainforest and Glory's tribe. And then I'll belong somewhere. The Rainwings won't care that I'm not in some prophecy. Glory, Tsunami scolded. Bright yellow wings are the one thing they might see. Go back to camouflage. Glory glanced down and saw the starbursts of gold that had appeared all across her scales. Those meant happiness or excitement as far as she knew, since she'd seen them pretty rarely in her life. It drove her crazy when her scales changed color without her telling them to. They did that way too often. She had to squash every big emotion before it splashed all over her. She concentrated on the steady drip-drip of the swamp around them, staring down at the thick brown mud oozing through her claws. She imagined the fog winding around her wings, slipping into the cracks of her scales and spreading like grey clouds rolling across the sky. And she's gone, Tsunami said. She's still here, Sunny piped up. She edged closer to Glory and bumped into one of her wings. See? Right there! She stretched out a talon, but Glory moved out of reach. Sunny felt around in the air for a moment and then gave up. Little Sandwing had been unusually quiet for the last few days. Glory guessed Sunny hated the rain too. The desert dragons were designed for searing heat, blazing sun, and endless clear sky days. Even an odd-looking sandwing like Sunny still had the instincts of her tribe. Really, Clay was the only one happy about the weather. Only a mudwing could appreciate the squishing and squashing under their claws as they traveled through the swamp. Starflight swiveled his head suddenly. I think I smell someone coming, he whispered. He shuddered from horns to claws. Don't panic, Tsunami whispered back. Clay, you hide me and Sunny. Starflight, find a shadow and do your invisible petrified nightwing thing. Glory, you can shield webs. No thanks, Glory said immediately. She wasn't going anywhere near webs, certainly not to save his life. I'll take Sunny. She didn't like touching other dragons, but Sunny was better than webs. But Tsunami started stamping her foot. Glory ignored her. She lifted one wing and tucked the little gold dragon in close to her side. When she lowered her wing again, Sunny was hidden by Glory's gray-brown camouflage. Yikes, Clay said. That was so weird. Like Sunny just got eaten by the fog. His stomach growled woefully at the word eaten, and the mudwing shuffled his big feet in embarrassment. Starflight peered at the spot where Sunny had just been, twisting his claws in the mud. She's fine, Glory said. Go follow orders like a good dragonette, or Tsunami might fling you to the eels. Tsunami frowned in her direction, but Starflight slunk away and found a dark green hollow where his black scales melted into the shadows. Now Glory could hear it too, the tramp squelch of enormous claws marching through the swamp behind them, toward them. The heat from Sunny's scales was uncomfortably warm against her side. Webs hadn't moved while they talked. He lay curled against the three roots. The three roots? Aw, well, see ya. I'm glad you liked it. He lay curled against the tree roots, snout resting on his tail, looking miserable. Clay shepherded Tsunami up next to his webs and spread his mud-colored wings to hide them both. It wasn't a perfect solution. A blue tail stuck out on one side, the edge of the blue-green wings on the other side. But in this fog, they looked mostly like a blobby mound of mud, which should be good enough. Tramp, squelch, tramp, squelch. I don't like this patrol, a deep voice grumbled. Glory nearly jumped. It sounded like it was coming from 2 trees away. Too close to that creepy rainforest, if you ask me. It's not really haunted, said a second voice. You know the only thing that lives there are birds and lazy rainwings. Years of learning self-control kept Glory from flinching. She'd heard lazy rainwings thrown around often enough by the guardians under the mountain, but it felt like an extra stab in the eye to hear it from a total stranger. If that were true, said the first voice, then Her Majesty would let us hunt in there, but she knows it's not safe, and you've heard the noises at night. Are you telling me it's the rainwings screaming like that? Screaming? Under Glory's wing, Sunny turned her head a little, as if she were trying to hear better. Not to mention the dead bodies, the first voice muttered. That's not some kind of rainforest monster, said the second god, but there was a tilt in her tone that sounded unsure. That's the war, some kind of guerrilla attacks to scare us. All the way down here? Why would the sea wings or the ice wings come all the way to kill 1 or 2 mud wings here and there? There are bigger battles going on everywhere else. Let's go a bit faster, said the second voice uneasily. They should really let us patrol in threes or fours instead of in pairs. Tell me about it. Tramp squelch, tramp squelch. So, what do you think about the Skywing situation? Are you for Ruby, or do you think... Glory strained her ears, but their voices faded into the mist as the two mud-winged soldiers splashed away. She badly wanted to know what the Skywing situation was. Maybe her friends wouldn't notice if she slipped away for a moment. Be right back, she whispered to Sunny, lifting her wing and stepping away. Sunny caught her tail wide-eyed. Don't go, she whispered. It's not safe. You heard what they said? About rainforest monsters? Gloria rolled her eyes. Can't say I'm terribly worried about that. I won't go far. She shook Sunny off and slipped after the soldiers, carefully stepping only on the dry patches so her claws wouldn't splash in the mud. It was weirdly quiet in the swamp, especially with the fog muffling most sounds. She tried to follow the distant rumble of voices and what she thought might be the sound of marching mudwing talons, but after a few moments even those became impossible to hear. She stopped, listening. The trees dipped. Rain drizzled moodily through the branches. Small gurgles burbled out of the mud here and there as if the swamp were hiccuping. And then a scream tore through the air. Glory's ruff flared in fear, and pale green stripes zigzagged through her scales. She fought back her terror, focusing her colors back to gray and brown. Glory! Sunny yelled behind her somewhere. Gara, you're a bit. Shut up! Glory thought furiously. Don't draw attention. Don't let anything know we're here. The other dragonettes must have had the same thought and stopped her, because Sunny didn't call out again. Mostly it was one of them who screamed. But it couldn't have been. That scream had come from somewhere up ahead. Glory checked her scales again to make sure she was well hidden, and then sped up, hurrying through the trees toward the scream. The fog was so dense she nearly missed the two dark lumps that looked like fallen logs, but her claws came down on something that was decidedly a dragon tail, and she leaped back. Two brown dragons were sprawled in the mud, surrounded by pools of blood that were already being washed away by the rain. Their throats had been ripped out so viciously that their heads were nearly severed from their bodies. Glory stared into the rolling grey fog, but nothing moved out there except them. The mudwing soldiers were dead, and there was no sign of what had killed them. End of the first chapter. So, I'm guessing that's perhaps a rainwing. That's the rainforest monster. Oh yeah. Maybe I actually should have read like the summary on the back of the book, because like there's something else here. Like, yeah, I'm gonna read that right now actually. Deep in the rainforest, danger awaits. The Dragonettes of Destiny aren't sure what to expect in the Rainwing Kingdom. Glory hopes to learn more about her family, and since the Rainwings aren't fighting in the war, all 5 Dragonettes think they might be able to hide safely for a while. But something deadly is stalking the peaceful kingdom, and the Dragonettes soon discover that Rainwings have been mysteriously disappearing from the forest. When the Rainwing Queen, who won't do anything to find her missing tribe members, Glory and her friends set off on their own rescue mission, which leads them right back into enemy territory. So, there's something deadly stalking the kingdom. Here I'm thinking, which is what just killed the Mudwing soldiers. I'm thinking like maybe a rogue Rainwing trying to find these who has set off to find the missing Rainwings, or like just punish foreign dragons that come close to the rainforest for their disappearance. I don't know. Maybe. I haven't read the book yet, This is just my theory so far. But I don't think that this something deadly that's stalking the kingdom is the cause for the Rainwings' disappearance, because we just saw that this thing killed the dragons and just left them there, and the soldiers talked about it too, just dead bodies. If it had anything to do with the disappearance, there would have been Rainwing bodies too, but it just says here that they're mysteriously disappearing. So, theories. It's fun, actually, reading this for the first time. It's fun to like get these theories and not have the knowledge of what actually happens in the book. It's fun. Ow, my neck. Chapter 2. Remind me why we're walking toward the place with the monster and the screaming and the something that kills dragons? Clay asked. We could go somewhere else, Starflight said. Maybe to the Ice Wings? Ice Wings, yes, Clay said. That sounds like a great plan. Let's do that. No mysterious dragon killing things in the Ice Kingdom, right? What are those animals they have out there? Penguins? I bet I could beat a penguin or two in battle, couldn't I? How big are they? Maybe just one penguin? So we can freeze it up instead, Glory said. A rumor of a couple of dead soldiers. We're not going to scare her away from her home, and when she was finally this close. Fantastic plan, Starflight. Not to mention, the Ice Kingdom is half a continent away, while the rainforest is right there. It's right here. Besides, Webs will never make it all the way to the Ice Kingdom, Sunny chimed in. She glanced nervously up at the trees, which seemed to be getting taller and taller as they walked. It was also warmer the further they went, and up in the vines overhead, Glory could see flashes of color. The bright summer yellows and purples and blues might have been birds or flowers, but they were definitely not typical of the brown Mud Kingdom. Glory wasn't sure, but she guessed the dragonets were in the rainforest for real now. The gnarled claw shapes of the marsh trees were half a day behind them, and so were the mud-winged bodies. Tsunami had wanted to stop and search the area for clues, but she'd been outvoted by the other dragonets when Starflight pointed out that now they'd really be in trouble if they were caught right next to a double murder. Not to mention whatever had killed the soldiers couldn't have gone far. That was enough to get everyone, even Webs, to fly through the night, and they'd circled down to walk again only once the sun was up, and they were looking for food. See, Glory said to Clay and Starflight, even Sunny is acting braver than you scaredy scavengers. Oh, I love that. Not scaredy cats, but scaredy scavengers. Even Sunny? The Sandwing flared up. What's that supposed to mean? I'm brave. I'm brave all the time. She lashed her tail and ducked away when Clay reached to pat her on the head. Warm bursts of sunlight nudged through the leafy canopy, making all their scales glow. Glory let her scales turn whatever color they wanted. A shimmery beetle green spread all over her, touched here and there with curls of amber. She liked the feeling of matching the trees and sunbeams. Maybe it's like this color she's getting now, actually. Maybe she's looking like this now. We'll be there soon, she thought with a shiver of anticipation. But it mustn't get my hopes up. Maybe it won't be what I imagined. It just has to be better than life under the mountain, trapped in a cave by guardians who hate me. I'm not setting the bar too high here, I think. Something crackled off to the left, but when Glory whipped around, all I saw was a shaggy grey sloth hanging from a tree and blinking sleepily at her. Have I mentioned this place makes me nervous? Clay asked. Only about 1,000 times, Glory said. I wish we knew what the Mudwings were talking about, Sunny said. How can they live right next to the rainforest and not know why it's dangerous? How can the rainwings live in the rainforest if it's all that dangerous? Glory continued. Webs sniffed faintly, the first sound he'd made in a while. He muttered, because they're rainwings. They probably haven't even noticed. Glory glared at him. Maybe you'd like a matching venomous wound on your other side, she snarled. Tsunami whirled and grabbed Webs' snout. The bigger Z-wing snorted with surprise and tried to jerk back, but she held him firmly so she could glare into his face. Alright, enough. What do you know about this? She demanded. You're the only one who's been to the rainforest. Does it have some kind of monster? She shook his snout, none too gently. Stop drooping like a wet fern and tell us if you know. And tell us what you know. Nothing. Webs mumbled through Tsunami's grip. Stamp on his tail, Glory suggested. I'll poke that scratch. That'll get him talking. Don't be horrible, Sunny said. She nudged their guardian's shoulder with her snout. Webs, please warn us if you know something. It's not safe for you either. Webs sighed and Tsunami let go of him. I swear, I don't know anything about a monster, he said. I didn't see anything dangerous when I snuck in here to steal Glory's egg. Honestly, it was really easy. It was the night before the brightest night, so I could tell which egg we're about to hatch. And I just took one and flew back to the mountains. I didn't even run into any rainwings, let alone a monster. My parents weren't even guarding their nest? Glory asked. Webs looked down at his talons and shook his head. That doesn't mean anything, Glory thought. But she remembered the Mudwing village and Clay's mother, who had sold one of her eggs to the Talons of Peace for a couple of cows. She hadn't missed Clay at all, and she certainly didn't want him back. Glory hoped her parents wouldn't be like that. Both Clay and Tsunami had been disappointed. Maybe parent dragons were always disappointing. Especially when you'd spent years dreaming about what they might be like. Well, Glory didn't particularly care whether her parents were the most amazing dragons in the world. She just wanted to meet all the rainwings and show her friends that they weren't all lazy fruit eaters, like the other tribes thought. With their camouflage, scales, and secret venom, surely they had to be tougher and stronger than anyone suspected. Maybe it's a new monster, Clay suggested. Something that's come to the rainforest since you were here 6 years ago. Maybe, Webb said. The Talons never sent anyone down this way. I can't tell you much about this place either, Starflight said, worrying at one of his claws. There were almost no scrolls about the rainforest or the dragons who live here. Glory knew that. She'd memorized every reference she could find anywhere to the rainwings. And all put together, they told her essentially nothing. There'd been one scroll called The Dangers of the Rainforest, so she knew a fair amount about quicksand, poisonous snakes, and deadly bugs. But even that one barely mentioned the rainwings themselves, and certainly nothing about creatures big enough to massacre the Mudwing soldiers. Something chattered loudly in the branches overhead, and they all jumped. It was just a monkey, Glory said fiercely, clamping down on her nerves so her scales wouldn't change color. Or a toucan or something. Can we eat toucans? Clay asked hopefully. Only if we can catch them, Tsunami said. She flexed her wings and glanced up at the branches and vines overhead. Glory wasn't hungry anymore, and now that the sun had finally come out, each touch of sunlight felt as if it filled her up better than any cow. With a twinge of guilt, she remembered the Skywing Palace and the sculptured tree Queen Scarlet had set up to display Glory on, like a piece of treasure. There had been so much sun there. Nothing like she'd ever had in her whole life under the mountain. Queen Scarlet would roll Glory into the sunlight and let her change colors however she wanted all day long. She didn't try to talk to her. She never touched her or yelled at her or insulted her or compared her to anyone. Scarlet's only wish had been for Glory to sleep and be beautiful. But I didn't love it, Glory told herself fiercely. I was just new and different. It was just new and different, a new, different way to be a prisoner and have my life chosen for me. I'm more than a lump of treasure. I guess Scarlet found that out the hard way. Caw! Caw! Tsunami leaped into battle position, her teeth bared, with Clay a step behind her. The others stopped as she glared around, looking for the source of the noise. I'm telling you, Glory said. It's only toucans. There's nothing to be scared of. You're just jumpy. Now, why would we be jumpy? Tsunami said. Oh, right! The dead bodies! At least I told you about them, Glory said, her ruff flaring. You saw that body or someone we knew. Of someone we knew. One day, on day one in the Kingdom of the Sea, and decided not to tell us. Guys, Starflight said. That was different! That was Crystal! Tsunami cried. I had to find a way to tell you properly. Super job you did there, Glory said. Guys! Starflight yelled. They stopped and looked back at him. He was turning in frantic circles, staring out at the trees. It took Glory a moment, but she realized what he was looking for right before he said, Where's Sunny? They all fell silent. Sunny had vanished into thin air. Oh dear! Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Maybe... No. If it had been a rainwing, but shielded her, then she would have, like, said something, right? Oh, I don't know. I have to remind myself to drink, otherwise I'll just keep reading ahead. I have a bad tendency to do that. Get a little whiff of peppermint. There we go. Plant babies. Chapter 3. Sunny! Clay bellowed at the top of his lungs. She was mad, Starflight fretted. Maybe she ran off because she was mad at us. She was? Clay asked. Why was she mad? Glory couldn't remember either. Run off into a strange rainforest on her own? Tsunami said. That's not like her. Glory closed her eyes and ransacked her brain. Poisonous snakes, deadly swarms of ants. What were the other dangers of the rainforest? Quicksand? She opened her eyes and peered at the ground around them. But it was all plain dirt, tree debris, and tangled roots. Nothing looked like quicksand. Sunny! Sunny! Clay yelled again. Tsunami growled. We made it through the Sky Kingdom and this Kingdom of the Sea without losing anyone, and now we're 2 minutes into the rainforest and one of us is gone? She's not gone, Starflight said, his voice vibrating with panic. with panic. She can't be. She has to be here somewhere. I was looking at her only a few moments ago. Glory turned her gaze up to the trees. A little grey sloth hung from a nearby branch, yawning. It looked like perhaps the least threatening creature she'd ever seen. She frowned at it. Webs, what do you think happened here? What do you think happened? Tsunami demanded, following Glory's gaze. There was no response. They all turned around. Webs was gone, too. No way! Clay said, flaring his wings. He was just here. I saw his face when we realized Sunny was gone. Maybe 10 seconds ago. He couldn't have disappeared in 10 seconds. But he did! Starflight cried. He did! And Sunny did! Into the thin air! Ouch! Tsunami said, clapping a talon to her neck. Something just stung me! Clay jumped and clawed at his neck as well. Starflight's eyes went wide, and then he threw himself to the ground and rolled onto the nearest low-hanging bush with his wings over his head. What in the world are you? Glory started, ducking to look at him. She had a soft buzz as something whizzed in by her ear, followed by a tiny thunk as it hit the tree behind her. She spun around and saw Clay literally disappear right in front of her. Ooh! It was as if the forest reached out leafy arms, quietly wrapped him up, and bundled him away. One moment he was there, blinking dizzily, and then he was gone. A heartbeat later, so was Tsunami. Aha! Glory thought. She planted herself next to Starflight's hiding spot and flared her ruff. Oh, it was! Oh, I think my hunch is actually right here. She could sense the waves of pale orange and dark red rippling across her scales, but she didn't try to hide them. She didn't care if her audience knew she was angry. That's enough, she called. Come out here right now. There was a pause, and then the air seemed to shimmer for a moment, and suddenly a dragon the color of raspberries stood in front of her, grinning. Another Rain Wing! I knew it! It was Rain Wings! But they use, like, darts to knock them out first. And then hide them with their camouflaging scales. Huh. Okay. That's cool. That's neat. Glory had never seen anyone else use camouflage scales like hers. It was startling and unsettling and kind of the coolest thing she'd ever seen. Holy moons, she thought. That is awesome. We do that. Rain Wings, like me. Another dragon, dark blue, dappled with gold, appeared beside the first. She was grinning too. Rustling overhead made Glory look up. Suddenly the trees were full of dragons. Rain Wings curled around the trunks or hung from the branches by their tails. Several of them were colors she'd never even imagined. She saw deep shades of violet, iridescent peach, pale jade, and a yellow so bright it was like being stabbed in the eyes with the sun. We are beautiful. Oh, look, said the raspberry dragon. She's happy to see us. Oh, that was a he. Oh, look, said the raspberry dragon. She's happy to see us. He beamed at her, and Glory realized that small bubbles of rose pink were rising up from her talons to her wings. Poor little dragonette, murmured the dark blue Rainwing. Why are her scales so dull? Glory blinked. Is she talking about me? Shh! Don't be rude, said the first Rainwing. Hello, shiny one. I'm Jumbo, and this is Liana. What's your name, and why don't we know you already? Glory, and the easily terrified black one is Starflight. she said, and she glanced behind her and saw Starflight careening from under the bush. Where are my friends? The dark blue dragon, Liana, tilted one of her wings up at the trees. Amid the dragons clustered overhead were 4 hanging nets woven of vines. Sunny webs, clay, and tsunami were inside. They all had their eyes closed and hung limply like sacks of fish. Are they okay? Starflight cried. Sleeping darts, said the raspberry dragon, producing a tiny blowgun from a pouch under his neck. Let's just say we have some tree frogs around here you wouldn't want to lick. Your friends will wake up fine in a few hours. It's easier to meet new dragons this way, said Liana. We've had a couple of grumpy brown ones stumble in here, and for some reason they start biting us before we can even say hello. This way we get to chat first. Well, they're still a bit groggy. Plus it's more fun, said Jambu. Practicing dog shooting on ourselves isn't the same. They probably won't think it's so fun, Glory said, especially the brew one. She can be a little groggy. Just to learn you. So, are we your prisoners now? Starflight asked glumly. The dark blue dragon burst into gales of laughter, and amused noises swept through all the dragons in the trees. Rainwings don't take prisoners, funny little black dragon, Liana said when she could speak again. Whatever would we do to them with them? Interrogate them for information? Glory suggested. Trade them for hostages of weaponry. Contain them to minimize any threats. The Rainwings blinked at her as if she'd suddenly started speaking Tuken. Just a few ideas, she said with a shrug. If we're not prisoners, Starflight said, then what are you going to do with us? Well, said the raspberry dragon, glancing up at the position of the sun over the canopy. Is anyone hungry? And then the trees began to scream. End of chapter 3. Oh my gosh. Okay, that I did not expect that. Huh. Well, I mean they're actually not in the war, so what did we expect actually from them? I at least didn't expect that. That's something. They don't take prisoners, so they're not gonna be kept prisoners in this book, like the other 2 books. I'm sorry if some of the voices are like different each time. I gotta find the right one and get acquainted with it. Looks like the core 5, not the core 4 like in Sanders sides, but like the core 5 dragonets. I have their voices down. Although Glory, because this is a book about her, this is like her book, I think I might change her voice up a bit. It's like she's the snarky, sarcastic dragon, kind of like a mix of Virgil and Janice for reference. But I think I might need to change her voice up a bit because in the book, because well, she's with her own people, she's with her own tribe now, so obviously she's going to have a growth in character and her voice is going to change. Her character is going to probably change, and so it's the way she speaks. Although I really hope she keeps being the sarcastic dragon I love. Chapter 4. Well, not. Well, we're only an hour and a half in, so maybe not. Okay, maybe 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours. That's a good one. That's a good, point. Yeah. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Let's just continue reading. Chapter 4. Starlight nearly leaped out of his scales. Glory felt her talons dig into the leafy dirt as she tried not to bolt into the jungle. The screams faded, and she realized that all the rainwings were staring at her quizzically. "Are you alright?" asked Jambu. "Wow, that's spook color. You weren't freaked like that by us. We clearly need to work on our scariness." "I'm not spooked," Glory said, gritting her teeth and regaining control of her scales. "I am," Starlight stammered. What was that noise?" "Oh," Liana said, "the screamer monkeys." She pointed up, and Glory spotted a pair of large brown monkeys lounging on a branch overhead. "They started doing that a few years ago." Oh. The screamer monkeys. "Only a few years ago they started doing that," Liana says. Maybe there's something to do with this thing that kills dragons. Theories are starting to circle around in my head. "It startled us at first too," Jambu said sympathetically. "They used to make these deeper grungy noises, but now it's all shrieking and gibbering like dragons being murdered. You get used to it." "Do you?" Glory asked. On one talon, that explained what the Mudwing Patrol were hearing from the rainforest. On the other, it definitely did not explain the dead soldiers. And on the third talon, why would monkeys suddenly start making different noises than they had before? And on the fourth, why didn't the rainwings think that was weird? "Come on, back to our village," Jambu said. "We could knock you out for the flight there if you want. You might be more comfortable. There are a lot of branches in the way." "No, thank you," Starlight said. "Absolutely not," Glory said at the same time. Jambu shrugged. "Alright, then follow us." He leaped gracefully into the air and spiraled up toward the treetops. The rest of the dragons did the same. It looked a bit like a rainbow exploding and splattering color all over the trees. Glory and Starlight followed them into the canopy, high above the forest floor, where they were surrounded by sunlit emerald green and the whirling whisper of tiny wings. Sorry about that. Yawn. Where they were surrounded by sunlit emerald green and whirring whispers of tiny wings. Birds darted and hopped all around them, as brightly colored as the rainwings. Whenever Glory paused for more than a moment, purple and gold butterflies landed on her talons or head. Perhaps they thought she was a flower. They stayed away from Starlight's darker scales. The rainwings moved through the treetops with a weird grace, using their tails or spreading their wings to glide between the trees. It looked more like swimming in the air than flying. Glory wasn't sure she'd ever get the hang of it. But it made sense, since straight flying made the densely packed... Like I said, I'm going to mess this up a lot because I haven't read it before. But it made sense, since straight flying between the densely packed trees would be difficult for creatures the size of dragons. Starflight kept smacking into vines as he tried to keep up with them. Gloria wondered if he was wishing he'd accepted the offer to be knocked out in a net like the others. She saw Sunny's net soar past them, handed smoothly from talon to talon, from rainwing to rainwing. With a quick glance to make sure no one was watching her, Gloria tried wrapping her tail around a branch and swimming in a full circle like the other rainwings did. Almost there, Jumbo said, landing beside her. His weight on the branch threw off her swing, and she ended up hanging upside down by her tail for an awkward moment. With a grin, he reached down and helped hold her back upright. Her back talons gripped the rough bark of the branch. It felt like ancient dragon scales under her claws. "You really aren't from around here," he said. "No," Gloria said as Starflight thudded down clumsily on the branch as well. "My egg was stolen from the Rainwings 6 years ago." "Well, I can take you out tree gliding anytime you want to practice," he said. "I bet you'll figure it out pretty quickly." He spread his wings and leaped off again. Glory frowned at his departing pink tail. Yeah, that was weird," Starflight said, answering her unspoken thought. "Wasn't it? As if he didn't care at all," Glory said. "He didn't ask who stole me, or where I was raised, or even act like he remembered an egg getting stolen. As if eggs just vanish all the time, no big deal." She scratched her ruff thoughtfully. "Well, whatever. Maybe they do. Maybe there's is a reverse and the dragons are used to losing eggs to it." "That is really, really not comforting," Starflight said. He wrapped his black wings closer to himself, peering down at the forest floor as if expecting something toothy to pop up and try to grab him. Comforting. Glory couldn't think of any particularly comforting explanation for Jumbo's lack of interest in her abduction. Perhaps he's just a weird dragon who doesn't pay attention to dragon nuts or eggs. Surely the rest of my tribe will care. "Come on, let's keep up," she said to Starflight. A few swings and glides later, suddenly all the rain wings around them veered up, spiraling even higher into the treetops. Starflight made an anxious noise as the nets whooshed by with their unconscious friends in them. And then the dragons started to land, and Gloria began to see the home of the rainwings. "Oh," she breathed. She stopped to hover in the air so she could look at everything. The iridescent colors of the dragons brought the hidden world forward. Otherwise, the villain was camouflaged as well as any rainforest. Wide vine walkways, shimmering with talon-sized orange orchids, hung between leafy platforms. A few of the tree houses had low walls or woven ceilings. Others were open to the sky and carpeted with soft white flowers like fallen clouds. See, this is why I want the graphic novels. Because this is too mind-blowingly beautiful to imagine for myself. Like, I really want a visual of what this looks like. Oh my gosh, I just noticed there's a sloth on the front cover. Right there. Right there. Oh my gosh, I just noticed that. I'm all over the place, sorry. But like, I really, really, really want the graphic novels. The first 4 books have been made into graphic novels, and I really, 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 really want them because there's so much that is left up to one's imagination in these books, and I just want to see that on paper. Like, what does it actually look like? How have they actually imagined it to look like? The people reading and illustrating the books. How have they imagined it to look like? Oh my gosh. Glory spotted a few of the sleepy grey sloth ambling or swinging between the walkways. She wondered if they weren't smart enough to know they were surrounded by dragons who could eat them at any moment. This was the coolest place I've ever seen, Glory thought triumphantly, and it's my place. Visitors! Liana called. She had one corner of Clay's net in her claws. Carefully, she and the other rain wings lowered him onto the platform wide enough for 20 dragons. Glory swept up to land beside him and watched her tribe gently set down her other friends. Dragon heads popped up all around the village. Glory realized that most of them were in hanging contraptions like hammocks. She studied the closest one. It was strung between two trees, sturdily woven of vines and lines with violet feathers and blue petals. The dragon inside was impossible to see because he poked his head out. His scales matched the green and purple around him perfectly. Clever, Starflight said, tilting his head at the hammock. He glanced at the ground miles below them and shivered. I certainly wouldn't want to sleep up this high without something like that. Look at that hammock design. You can't fall out, and with rainbow camouflage, enemies aren't likely to spot you either. Glory glanced down at her scales and saw a color rolling through them that she had never seen on herself before. A vibrant blue-purple, she guessed meant pride. She was proud of her tribe. She'd barely met them, and already they were as impressive as she'd hoped. So there, Guardians, she thought, all those years of making me sleep on uncomfortable rock ledges in the dark. And who are the backward dragons exactly? I know, isn't it pretty? We quite like our village too, Liana said, practically in Glory's ear. Glory jumped back, flicking her tail. Alright, there's one thing that made her uncomfortable. The way the other rainwings looked at her as if they expected to understand every thought she had. Just by reading her scales. She clamped down on her emotions, turning her scales back to a tree-top green that matched the background. Liana didn't seem ruffled by Glory's reaction. The rain wing scanned the leaves overhead, then smiled as 5 small dragons in shades of sky blue and copper dropped through the canopy toward them. Hope you're hungry, Liana said as the dragons opened their talons. Strange shapes bounced and rolled across the platform, bumping against Glory's sleeping friends. Glory picked up the one closest to her. Lime green and star-shaped. It smelled like pineapple and basil. She poked it with one claw, wondering if she had to peel it. Under the mountain, the dragonets had almost never eaten fruit. She knew more from reading about it in the scrolls than from the few berries Webs had sometimes brought back. Queen Scarlet was the one who'd given her the pineapple. Don't think about Queen Scarlet. Starflight scanned the platform with a disappointed expression. Is all of this fruit? He asked. Isn't there any meat? Liana wrinkled her nose. You can hunt if you want, she said, but really it's a waste of energy. She glanced up at the sky again. And it's almost our sun time, so if you must, then do it quietly. Sun time? Gloria asked. Oh, sweetheart, Liana shook her head. Is that what's wrong with you? I was not aware that anything was wrong with me, Gloria said, firmly keeping her scales from changing color. Not from a rainwing point of view, anyway. It's just your scales, Liana said. They're so mousy. Gloria stared at her. Mousy? You know, Liana said apologetically, a little dull. Not like ours. She stretched out one wing and let a waterfall of rainbows ripple through it. Is she saying I'm not as beautiful as other rainwings? Certainly, they were all very bright and shiny. Maybe her own scales weren't quite as vibrant. Glory wasn't sure what to think of that. In fact, she was pretty sure she didn't care. She'd always been the pretty one, and it had never gotten her anywhere, other than chained to a decorative tree in the Skywing Palace. So, tell me about Suntime, she said with a shrug. A few streaks of orange and emerald flashed through Liana's scales, and then vanished into dark blue again. Orange and emerald. If their scales worked the same way, then that meant Liana was feeling a little surprised and a little irritated, as if she'd hoped to prod more of a reaction out of Glory. This scale reading business can go both ways, my new friends. Sometime, Liana said smoothly, as if her scales hadn't changed at all. It's the hours when the sun is highest, so we climb up as close to it as we can and sleep. Oh! Starflight interjected in his figuring things out voice. Glory! It's like those naps you always take after lunch. I knew that must be a Rainwing thing, but I can never figure out the point. Why sleep in the middle of the day? Don't you all have anything more important to do? Gloria flicked her tail and narrowed her eyes at him, but Liana didn't seem offended. The sun recharges our scales while we sleep, she explained. It makes us prettier, better at camouflage, smarter, and happier. What could be more important than that? Oh, Starflight said again. He studied Glory like a scroll and finally made sense. Oh! Happier? Like less grouchy? Shut up, Glory said, giving him a shove. She'd already put some of these pieces together in her own mind. She knew that what the Guardians had done, keeping her trapped underground away from the sun her whole life, had probably made her into a grumpier, less powerful dragon than she could have been. But she didn't need the others figuring that out because she didn't need their pity. And who knew what she could have been like otherwise? Being prickly was kind of an essential part of being Glory, if you asked her. The truth was, in the Sky Kingdom, where Queen Scarlet left her out in the sun all day, Glory had never felt happier or more at peace, or less like herself. She knew it was the effect of the sun and nothing else. She knew that what she'd experienced was like finally getting to eat as much as she needed after a lifetime of starvation. She knew that Queen Scarlet was evil and that Glory was the only sparkly piece of treasure to her. Was only another sparkly piece of treasure to her. Sorry. Part of her hated it. Hated the weird sleepiness and the unmotivated contentment that made her feel like a puddle of slugs. And yet there was a part of her that could have stayed there forever. That way forever. She shook herself fiercely. So go sleep, she said to Liana. We're not going anywhere. The other Rainwings who'd carried the nets had already flown off to higher platforms in the treetops. Some were sprawled out in open patches of the sun, while others were stretched inside the clever hammocks, snoring. True, said Liana. We'll wake up before your friends do. Don't you want to ask all your questions first? Starflight said to Glory. Don't you want to find your family? And there's no rush, Glory said, cutting him off. They're asleep now anyway. The answers will be the same in a few hours. She knew she was good at looking like she didn't care. She particularly wanted Liana to think she didn't care. It was likely that questions didn't parade across her scales like her emotions, or she'd have been covered in them. But she wasn't about to look desperate in her first moments with her new tribe. They certainly didn't seem to have a million questions for her, so fine, she could act like this reunion was no big deal to her either. Maybe acting cool and unconcerned was a natural Rainwing thing. Starlight scratched his head. Can we at least ask about the monster? Monster? Liana laughed. There's no such thing as monsters. Really? Starlight asked. Then what's killing Mudwing soldiers on your borders? Oh, Liana said. That monster. Starfly's wings flared, and his eyes went wide as the moon's. Liana burst out laughing. Your face! She cried. That was so worth it. I'm just kidding, little black dragonette. I don't know anything about any dead mudwings, but I do know we don't have any monsters here. Just relax, Starlight, Glory said. Think about libraries or something. Little dragonette! Little dragon! Jambu called from a perch high above Glory's head. She squinted up at him, dazzled by the bright light reflecting off his magenta scales. Are you joining us for some time? Want a hammock? He offered. Or a platform? Glory blinked at her friends. Clay was snoring louder than all the Rainwings combined. Tsunami frowned even in her sleep, her claws twitching as if she dreamed about fighting. Sunny was curled up in a peaceful ball like a snoozing chinchilla, and Webbs, with his shallow breathing, looked and sounded halfway dead. If they weren't going to wake up anytime soon. Anyway. Go ahead, Starlight said. It's okay. I'll watch them. He shook his wings and puffed out his chest imposingly, which came across a bit like a tree frog trying to look menacing. Wake me if you need to, Glory said. If I hear someone shrieking like a tiny scavenger, I'll assume it's you. Starlight huffed in an outrage as Glory scooped up a couple of mysterious fruits and flew to Jambu's branch. I'll take a platform, she said, landing beside the pink wing. Are you sure? You sure? He asked. Usually dragonettes stick to the hammocks, in case they roll off in their sleep. You'd wake up before hitting the ground, but you'd probably hit a few other things first. So, we're not talking death or anything, but some serious ouch. I'll be fine, Glory said. She'd never fallen off the ghastly rock ledge where she had been forced to sleep for 6 years. And even in her Sky Kingdom, sun overdose, almost coma, she'd always stayed perfectly balanced on the marble tree. A calm sleeper, huh? Said Jambu. Clear conscience, peaceful dreams? Sure, Glory said, as if I would tell my dreams to a dragon I just met. Or my crimes, for that matter. Then you can join ours, he said, hopping from the branch to a platform covered in overlapping leaves, laid out to look like one gigantic leaf. The other 2 dragons on it nodded sleepily at her. Glory turned in a circle and laid down with her wings spread wide to catch as much sunshine as possible. Warmth flooded through her as if she were rolling in molten gold. This, she thought, as her eyes closed and all her muscles relaxed. I could have slept in the sun like this every day of my life. Forget the stupid prophecy. This is the destiny I was supposed to have. End of chapter 4. Only 1 chapter to go. I'm kind of getting an iffy feeling about the Rainwings, actually. Like, I know they're not bad or anything, but like, it's just the fact that I actually don't know anything. And that they're unperturbed. about Glory coming after 6 years, coming back after 6 years, like having been stolen, and like having her egg being stolen. It's just off-putting to me. I don't like it. Like, and they haven't been involved in the world, the rest of the world, which is basically the same right now because there's been a war going on for 18 years. So, this is how. I mean, I guess this is how they are when there's no war. And all the other tribes are like kinda the same right now, acting the same right now, because there's a war going on that they're all in. Of course, they still have like their things going on. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. I guess they're kind of making me feel like, think of like fairies. You know, from Peter Pan, the Neverland. You know, the fairies there. Kind of reminds me of them. And I don't know why. It's just a bit off-putting. That they're as ignorant as they are. Something about them is kind of willingly ignorant, and I don't like that. It's iffy to me. I don't like willingly ignorant dragons or people, for that matter. I don't know. Let's just read the final chapter of the day and get this over with, because I am sweating under this. I am starting to sweat a bit, and I'm really I gotta stop myself from like reading this entire book tomorrow. Sorry, I can't carry that out. Yeah. Chapter 5. Laurie woke up refreshed and relaxed, but as she lay there with her eyes closed, she felt a wave of strange anger at herself. Alright, sure, I'm not the great, magnificent, wondrous dragonet prophecy. I'm not in the great, magnificent, wondrous dragonet prophecy. Maybe no one would ever write a prophecy about Rainwing. Maybe no Dragon Imperia expects of us to have an important destiny or do anything worthwhile. This, sleeping all day in a patch of sun, is that all I'm good for? Any Rainwing is good for? There must be more to us than this. There must be more to me. She wanted to kick herself. Falling asleep almost the moment she found her home. This was exactly what she didn't want her friends to think about her or her tribe. She'd have to show them there was a good reason for Rainwings to have sun time. It must make them smarter and fiercer or something. She shifted her wings and froze. Something was curled in the gap between her shoulders and her wing. Some part of it was also draped across her neck. It was warm, warmer than the sunbeams, and it was breathing deeply and evenly. She inched her head around and peered sideways at it. There was a sloth sleeping on her. It had crept into the curve of her shoulder and fitted itself there perfectly, slipping one arm over her neck to pillow its head. Long, silvery grey fur draped over her scales, over her green scales. Its eyes were shut, and it had a peaceful smile on its sleeping face. What ridiculous creatures! Fearless or stupid? Or maybe it's a diabolically clever pan. After all, she couldn't eat it now. She couldn't possibly eat something that smiled like that. It reminded her a bit of Sunny. Probably would also have no trouble falling asleep on something big enough to eat her. Ha ha ha! Mood. She twisted her head up, moving as little as possible so she didn't disturb the sloth. The other rainwings on her platform were still asleep. The sun had drifted down the sky, but she guessed there were several hours yet until nightfall. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. Sorry. A soft breeze tossed homeless leaves across the canopy, and two fat blue frogs on a nearby branch were having a drowsy, ribbity conversation. The sloth chirruped. It opened its enormous dark eyes, looked into hers, and yawned a wide, oddly elegant yawn. Purple. I'm awake, Gloria said, so you should probably play in Terra now. Said the sloth said agreeably. It snuggled closer to her scales and yawned again. I'm not like these other dragons. I have things to do, Glory told it. You can keep sleeping there. The sloth concurred, closing its eyes. I'm reading ahead again. Oh, that's a really bad habit. The platform vibrated underneath her as Jumbo chuckled. He rolled over and nodded at the sloth. You've been chosen, he said. That happened fast. No, thank you, Glory said. I don't want to be chosen, especially by a sloth. She pushed herself up to sitting, but the sloth somehow got both arms around her neck and hung on, nestling against her wing. She likes you, Jumbo said. Now you have to pick a name for her. The queen calls hers Shaggy. Oh no, Shaggy! uh, first of all, what? And no, it's seriously undignified for a dragon queen to have a sloth. Also, the sloth is much too pretty for a dopey name like Shaggy. Glory said, then caught herself. And I'm not naming her because I'm not keeping her. She'll wander away if I ignore her long enough. Jambu snorted with amusement. Or maybe I'll eat her, Glory said. Why don't you eat them? She shot a glance at the sloth, who looked serenely unconcerned. He shrugged. Because they're cute. And too hairy, and they're all fur. You'd have indigestion for days. Glory reached up and poked the snout with her claw. It did seem to be mostly fur. Rumble. The sloth wriggled as if it was being tickled. I'm not playing with you, Gloria said. You have to go away. I have important things to do, like finding my parents. And I'm reading ahead again. I really need to stop myself from doing that. How many times am I going to have to do that? Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, 9 pages more. I'm going to be doing that. Jumbo tilted his head at her. His raspberry pink scales had drifts of light pink whorls in them. Glory was pretty sure she'd never been that color, and she had no idea if that meant anything. Sometimes pink popped into her scales when she was happy, but Jumbo was pink from head to toe. Nobody could be that happy. Finding your parents, he echoed. How? You tell me, Gloria said. I can tell you when I was stolen in one of these And one of those sea wings down there can tell you from where. Isn't that enough? Ha! Jambu laughed because he genuinely thought she was joking, then smothered his giggles when he realized she wasn't. What are you talking about? Rainwings don't do herons. Glory tried to ignore the twist of disappointment in her stomach. She knew that might happen. Remember the mudwings? Maybe the rainwings are the same, raised by their siblings instead. So, she started. Oh, why would you want to find them anyway? Jambu asked. Gloria stamped down her temper so it wouldn't show up on her scales. 2 reasons, she said. 1, I want to know where I came from and what I've missed. And 2, I want my family to know I'm alright. They must have worried a lot when my eye went missing. She studied him for a reaction. Jambu pulled on his snout and looked confused. But they wouldn't know, he said. I guess you don't. I mean, he stopped and glanced around at the sleeping dragons everywhere. A few were up and moving through the village already, but most were still snoring. I'll just show you, he said, spreading his wings. Glory spread hers as well. Time to get off, sloth, she said, unless you're prepared for some flying. Burp. The sloth wrapped its arms more firmly around her neck. Do they understand us? Gloria asked. Doubtful. Jambu said, they're just reading our body language and responding. He shook off a winding vine and drove off the platform. Glory checked the sloth again. She was pretty sure it was smiling at her. Maybe her sloth could understand her. Maybe it was smarter than all the other sloths in the rainforest. She said, her sloth. Her sloth. She followed Jambu, gliding carefully between the trees and hanging vines. She tried not to care about the fairy creature clinging to her, but she found herself flying more slowly than usual and avoiding things that might knock it off. You ridiculous dragon, it's only prey, no matter how cute. Wherever Jambu was leading her, it was some distance from the center of the village. They passed more platforms covered with sleeping dragons, and something like a trampoline of enormous interwoven leaves stretched between 4 trees, where a few little dragonettes were bouncing and flapping their wings furiously as they learned to fly. Everyone looked happy. There were none of the horrible war wounds and scars Glory had seen in the other kingdoms. Nobody seemed tense or terrified. Nobody was being forced to fight to the death or punished for failing a god duty. No fighting, no worrying about the war, no starving or bowing to an insane queen. Well, as far as I know, anyway. Who needs a prophecy when they could have a home like this? Jambu angled down toward a structure shaped like a gigantic green egg. Holes all over the roof allowed sunlight through the overlapping leaves, but the bottom was reinforced with tightly woven vines and branches, so it looked sturdier than anything else Glory had seen so far. She wondered for a moment if this was a palace, but surely it wasn't big enough for that. She hadn't seen anything large or regal enough to be the Rainwing Queen's palace yet. They landed on a branch next to one of the windows below, on the window holes, and Jambu gestured for her to look inside. Pale eggs lined the entire floor, packed closely together. In the sunlight from above, shimmering colors glowed under the thin shells as the unhatched dragonettes wriggled and squirmed. Glory guessed that the eggs around the outer edges were the closest to hatching, since she could see more movement inside them. A few even had tiny cracks along the top already. So, she said, you have a hatchery. All queens do. I mean, sure, this is a lot of eggs for one queen, but... Wait... Are you saying this is a hatchery I was stolen from? Am I the daughter of a queen too? No. Not that it made much difference to her. It would be pretty funny to see the look on Tsunami's face if it was true. I have no idea, Jambu said. There are 3 hatcheries, so it could have been any one of them. But you're missing the point. These eggs aren't from one queen, or any one dragon. We keep all our eggs together like this. Glory blinked at the array of smooth white shapes in front of her. So these are a third of the eggs in the village right now, all stuffed in together? Exactly, said Jambu. They keep each other warm and hatch whenever they need to. We stop by every couple of days to check for newly hatched dragonettes. Otherwise, we don't have to worry about our eggs. They're all safe in here. Except for mine, Glory pointed out, which was stolen. She paused, realization dawning. It felt as though the wind had just been sucked out from under her and she was falling with useless wings. And nobody noticed, she said slowly. That's what you're telling me. You had no idea my egg was missing at all. Jambu shrugged. He didn't even look embarrassed. Why would we? He said. As you can see, we have plenty of eggs. New ones roll in every week, so why go to the trouble of counting them? Because I wasn't just an egg rolling in and out of your hatchery, Glory said, flaring her up. There was a real-life dragon in there. A dragonette who had to grow up for 6 years, no family, no rainforest, and no sun. Brrr, the sloth said sympathetically, hugging her neck. Nori had forgotten it was there. A cloudy blue-gray began to march up Jambu's scales from his talons. He made an almost comically sad face at her. No sun? He said. Hey, I survived just fine, Glory said. He stepped away from Jambu's wing as he reached for her. This isn't a tragic pity-me situation. I'm just saying maybe you should care a little more about your eggs and the dragons inside them. We do care, he said. Dark green distress flickered in his ruff. We take very good care of our dragonettes. We just don't worry about the eggs because we've never lost any before. How do you know? She cried. If I was stolen so easily, you might have lost others too. He opened and closed his mouth a few times, looking so stupid that she wanted to punch him in his snout. This went beyond parents who didn't love their eggs. Nobody had missed her. She had no family, wondering what had happened to her. Nobody had cared that she was gone. Webbs must have known the rainwings were like this. That's why he came to the rainforest to steal an egg. That was why he hadn't wanted to admit to her on the way here. The rainwings weren't a secretly wonderful, perfect tribe. It was worse than she'd feared. Her tribe was too lazy to even count their own eggs. Oh, now you're mad, Jambu said woefully. Glory couldn't stop the dark red streaks appearing along her wings. She scowled at him. So, how do you know which dragonettes belong to which parents? She asked. We don't, he said. We raise them all together. The whole village. Everybody helps. I teach tree gliding, he said proudly. The blue-gray of his scales was already fading black into pink again. But then, Glory said slowly, doesn't that mean you don't even know who you're related to? Oh, I know what you're thinking, Jambu said. Don't worry, we have a way to tell. Before 2 dragons decide to have eggs together, they do the venom test. He pivoted in a circle and plucked a floppy oval leaf from one of the trees and laid it on the branch between them. Watch! He opened his mouth wide, nearly unhinging his lower jaw, and spat a small amount of black venom on the leaf. I'm reading ahead again, I'm sorry. Glory had imagined herself looking cool and menacing when she shot her venom, but the other rainwing looked creepy, like a mentally unbalanced snake. The leaf immediately began to sizzle and melt. Now you shoot your venom at it, he said. Just a little. Try to hit the same spot. Glory hadn't exactly ever practiced aiming her venom or controlling how much she shot out. She fired her fangs at the leaf and ended up nearly drenching it in black poison. The branch below and around the leaf started smoking and fizzling as well, but strangely, where Glory's venom hit Jambu's, those spots stopped melting instantly. Whoa! Jambu said. He sprayed a little more of his venom carefully on the rest of the leaf and the branch where Glory had splashed. Where Glory's had splashed. Oh, it's getting a bit slow. Sorry. All of the smoking and sizzling stopped. The leaf sat peacefully in a puddle of what appeared to be harmless black goop. Glory blinked at it. She said. Unexpected. Jambu thwacked one of her wings with his, radiating delight in every pink scale. Don't you see what just happened? Your venom countered mine. Isn't that awesome? That's so awesome. Is it? Glory asked. That means we're related. Jambu cried. You're my little sister. Glory flexed her claws and thought about that. She'd come to the rainforest looking for some family after all, but it figured that she'd find out Jambu was a brother right after deciding he was the dizziest, most useless dragon she'd ever met. What good was a family who'd never been there for you, who'd never known or cared you were alive and lost and in danger? Oh, she said, wow, related. She reached up and scratched the sloth's chin. It snuggled in closer to her with another burbling sound. I love that sloth! That's perhaps her sloth on the cover then. That's how we know, Jambu said, waving a talon at the half-melted leaf. If your venom made it melt faster, then we'd know we weren't related. So we could have acts together, but when your venom cancels out the other dragons, you come from the same family. Can you believe we're brother and sister? Well, okay, we're probably only half brother and sister, but still, it's pretty cool. You're definitely not my dad. Oh, Glory said. Right. Jambu let out a shout of laughter. I'm only 9 years old, she said. I promise I haven't fathered any eggs yet, and I especially didn't have any when I was 3. Well, that's a light relief, Glory thought. That must be how their tribe cures dragons who've been hit by venom too, right? She said, find a family member to stop the spread of the poison. Her newfound brother looked horrified. We don't use our venoms on other dragons, he said, bright green flaring across his ruff. Who would do that? No one, Glory said. Maybe not in your perfect world, but talk to me again when you're held prisoner in a queen who's forcing her friends to fight to the death. This is what you're thinking, by the way. I mean, if someone hit someone else by accident, that's not impossible, right? Oh, venom trainers would never let that happen, Jambu protested. He glanced down at the mess she'd made on the branch. I bet you could get a few lessons with one of them if you want. We only ever use it for this kind of test, and very rarely for prey if we need it. Or, things that attack us, hypothetically. Things that attack you? Glory asked, perking up her ears. Like mysterious rainforest monsters? She wondered. We should get back to your friends, he said. They'll be waking up any minute, and we can tell them our good news about being related. So awesome. Right, awesome. Alright, she said, I've seen enough here. And I'm pretty sure I've gotten all the answers about my family that I'm ever going to get. A long-lost sister, Jambu yammered. curling his tail around the branch. So cool! I can teach you tree gliding and show you all the different fruits in the rainforest and how to take care of your sloth. And he swung around the branch and glided off, still talking. Gloria took one more look at the village hatchery and followed him. She couldn't help but notice that he had no questions for her. He didn't care where she'd been or who'd stolen her why. He didn't ask about the world beyond the rainforest. He had lots of ideas for what he could show her, but didn't seem interested in what she might be able to teach him. She shook her head and navigated around the mossy tree trunk. Who cares anyway? Even if it's all true, everything the Guardian said about rainwings, even if they are all useless and don't care about the right things, I'm still me, and I am not going to be like them. Not ever. No way. End of chapter 5. Last chapter of the day. Kaboom. So, boom. That was the 5 chapters of the day. I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow because I'm going to be on a call with my partner Bones. But Wednesday I will be streaming the next 5 chapters. Thursday, I'm not sure yet. I might be trying to find like a game to play, like Sandoside's, the Sandoside's fan game side quests. It's still in development, but it's really good so far. People are so talented and creative. Like, holy freak, that is awesome. And on Friday, I'll be streaming another 5. I'll be reading another 5 chapters of the book. And hopefully then I'll be able to have gotten a look at things, so I'll be able to stream Minecraft Saturday and Sunday. But I don't know yet. My brother has an extra stationary computer, which was repaired specifically for him, for free. So I'll try and talk to him and my dad about trying to get it working and all that. We'll see if I can get stuff to work, if I can get things to work. I really hope I can, because I really want to play it. I really want to start playing it, so you guys. But yeah, that was it for today. Gonna sniff a bit more peppermints. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be checking out Eden's sketch. They DM'd me. I haven't looked at it yet because I've been reading. But I'll take a look at it, Eden, because that is so cool. That is so cool. So it's a tiny streamer. I only read. But yeah. Oh yeah. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Goodbye. Remember to stay hydrated.